Richard, I would love to hear your thoughts on this matter on screen in particular. What do you think is the reason behind this sudden exit, and what comes next?
I'm going to bring up a name we haven't mentioned here yet, or at least not that I can recall. I did step away for a moment, but I believe that Nelson Peltz may have a cadre of people that might be interested in shifting direction at the Disney company. I think that his influence the last time around certainly tried to redirect the ship. I think that you'll see. If you see more movement in the direction of cutting loose the corruption, as Pro was referring to this, not directly, not in those terms, but I think Pro's right. I think you're going to see more of these leaders in this area of the cult be stripped away in an effort to prevent Peltz from rising again with a potential to.
I was going to say, do you think that this whole thing, are you insinuating culture that basically he said that, oh no, we're not going anywhere, we're going even further deeper into the woke, was just to appease the media and certain people within the company, but on the inside he's like, oh, he got Peltz off his back by saying, I'm going to get rid of all these people? Is that what you're insinuating?
I think that that's probably something that was part of the discussion, but not directly between the two. I think oftentimes Iger is not able to communicate directly with people for any length of time. He is a wonderful communicator publicly and a great public speaker, but you notice how he got rattled during the annual shareholders meeting. He was substantially rattled by the questions that were essentially going under the radar of the screener there, and really exposing a lot of problems that Disney has, and bringing a lot of other investors' attention to the fact that others were seeing the same problems within the company. So yes, I think that perhaps some intermediaries are having continual conversations there. It's possible they've spoken directly. Would it surprise me? Not really, but it's just not. Iger's just doesn't seem to be doing well one-on-one with people, even in interviews. He's been rattled and looking for words when he should have prepared statements to a lot of the softballs that he's normally asked. Well, he's been asked some very difficult questions lately. So I'm in agreement with Pro. I think you'll see more shake loose. They're going to have to try to get the boat a little closer to the middle. Will it be in the middle? No. Will they abandon DIE, which is what it actually is? No. Are they going to continue to put meritless people in positions of power? Of course. But they have to do it in a way that they have to do changes in a way that isn't going to draw too much attention. These two particular moves have drawn a bunch of attention. So publicly, you can say, hey, look, she's off to do other things. McCarthy's got family things. You've got all this other stuff going on. You got rid of, Victoria Alonso for, whatever stated reason that you have. But ultimately, in the end, you're really seeing some shifts. And it'll be telling after Indy 5 releases what happens over at Lucasfilm, I think. And look, if you start to see, how about the elimination of the story group at Lucasfilm? Would that send a signal? I don't know.
Culture, before you go, one of the things that's been interesting is that Disney now has a pattern that when they let go of some of these women, now Christine McCarthy doesn't fit in that same box. She's leaving for medical reasons, and we actually believe that those are legitimate.
Sure. Yeah.
But the other women that have been let go at this level, they file lawsuits against Disney later on, and it turns into a massive food fight between Disney and the woman that Disney would like to be on good graces with, because they want to be part of that Me Too situation.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if Todd Newton comes out swinging at Disney, given that she has released no statement. They did not allow her to release a statement that we can see. What do you think? Does this get ugly maybe in the next few days? Do we see an expose out in one of the trades about this?
Would it surprise me? Absolutely not, Pro. I mean, you're again, as always, your instincts are amazing.
99,
and that's this type of person's MO too, right? Like the woke folk. Like that's what I said too. It's interesting you said that, Pro, because I said we'll know more about this Christine McCarthy situation. Where if in 2-3 weeks from now we don't see an expose, well then it was more of what they say it is. But I think you're right, and I think that's a very interesting point.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see an expose from this person in the next couple.
It would actually be surprising if we don't, because again, as everybody who's affiliated with or ever been affiliated with a large corporation, they know how these things happen, especially in the entertainment industry. But I also would agree with you, Pro. I want to believe that the reasons given by Miss McCarthy were, the actual reasons for her leaving. But it's just, there's a lot of coincidences happening right now, and maybe the fact that McCarthy did have to leave for the reasons stated is opening the door for other people that were being protected to make their way out the door as well.
The reason I've been exceedingly careful with Christine McCarthy is because she's a triple survivor of breast cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
She's 70 years old, and her husband is in a permanent, full-time 24/7, nursing home, essentially.
Yeah.
You want to be awfully careful because you don't want a tragedy to happen 3 weeks later and you come off as a very horrible person. So it's better to err on the side of being wrong in that case.
And I agree with you. And I've said it that almost every single way. I'm like, look, I want to take that as at face value. But like I said, it doesn't mean that there isn't opportunity for these other things to happen, because as a result of that.
McCarthy was, if you take away the health situation, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that my position, and I assume everybody on this panel, she just acted horribly. I've called her the real life Ursula. The decisions she made at Disney were horrendous. Well, now she's gone. And what are we seeing? We're seeing the head of the Reimagine Tomorrow program that was infiltrating children's content, children's programming with nonstop ideology. Yeah. She's out the door. And I'm sitting here saying, who's next? And the other thing I'm saying, and we need to talk about this, I think. Look at this. You've got the Little Mermaid. It doesn't matter what the trades say, right? Who cares about the trades? The trades are becoming irrelevant versus the kinds of channels we're running here, the kind of content we're making, trying to cover this accurately. This is where people come to get the actual truth. Look at Little Mermaid. It's going to lose $100 million. Look at Elemental. It's going to lose $200 million.
More.
Look at Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. God only knows how much money that thing's going to lose. That might, excess of $300 million Indy's going to lose, probably. You are talking about, over the entire course of this year, Disney cozying up to $1 billion in box office losses. We're not talking about flops. We're talking about catastrophes. We're talking about John Carter's over and over and over. We're talking about Lone Rangers back to back to back. This is a historical time, and we don't have the numbers yet. We don't get them until August when they have to do the next report. But when that happens, I think we're going to find out why it's time to jump ship. These people know it.
I think.
Are you saying, when you say jump ship, because now it just sounded like a number of these people are leaving because they know they're on the Titanic. Are you suggesting that by exit they may actually have left of their own free will, seeing, this is going to hell and I'm not going to be here?
Let me enter into speculation territory strongly here. Let's parse this out. Given how positively the Walt Disney Company talked about her in the press release, in the trades, but also given the fact that they have no replacement, given the fact that it is someone already doing another significant job who will take on her duties in the interim, and given the fact that she was not allowed to give a press release of her own, and also given the fact that she has nowhere that she's going, she is on the board of some nebulous company that is unnamed, supposedly in the future, and she is selling her Etsy jewelry. Remember, this is one of the most powerful women in Hollywood who will now be selling Etsy jewelry. And they have that jewelry, the value of the jewelry when she lost that job, make this for what you will, the value of that jewelry plummeted to as close to zero as the macaroni art on your refrigerator that your child did. Now, given all of that, here is my speculation. I'm going to say that in the environment where Bud Light is going through what it's doing, Target is going through what it's going through, these other companies are experiencing these things. Let's just imagine a world where Disney came to her and said, we must moderate. We are not going to put X, Y, and Z forth like we were going to do in the past. We know this is what happened with Victoria Alonso, by the way. They wanted to remove some of the insignia that was in support of the alphabet stuff that we've talked about here that will avoid us out of trouble. They wanted her to remove it out of one of the Marvel properties, and she said no, and she got in big trouble. Well, what if they did that with Tom Newton? What if they said, the stuff we were going to do this fall, we've got to moderate. We can't find ourselves in the same position as these other corporations. Cut it out. And what if she looks at the numbers, she figures out where the company's going, and she says, no, you'll have to fire me. And they say, okay, we've had a great relationship with you. Bye-bye. And she's probably sitting there. Now, again, we're in full speculation. I'm just looking at how this plays out in what we have so far publicly. It could be different. However, she may have looked at this situation and said, I can make far more if I go after them after this than if I stick around with this company and watch it go down and I get this put on me, right? Why stick around with this company and have this put on me when I can exit, become a hero in the press, take them on legally, get my settlement like Victoria Alonso and Karen McCarthy, who's over there at Lucasfilm. Let's have some fun with this instead of sticking around. Again, speculation, but I think that might be what's happening.
Wow. Okay, but as we both look forward at the August 9th numbers, right? Because that's what we're looking at for Disney, and the fact that we know that their projected EPS is going down, and and it's going to hit the rather low side, on the earnings equation. There's a chance it's going to actually go to the lowest estimate, which will be about 53 cents of earnings per share. Deb, do you think that this is an effort? These maneuvers are an effort to try to stymie some of, again, what I suggested, the Nelson Peltz factor entering the building again?
I think you're going to see executives exit either of their own accord or not as a result of them being asked to do things which are repulsive to them. And the only reason they've been able to do them in the past is because of where the Walt Disney Company was. It was untouchable. Now that it is faltering and falling, they have to do these difficult things and go against what they have said, what they've alleged are their deeply held beliefs. And I think that's where you'll see these executives exit either of their own choosing or being forced out, however you want to phrase the pressure they're going to feel. But what do you do when you've hired actual ideologues, people who hold these beliefs religiously, that they're supposed to crusade against, as Samuel L. Jackson has said, the 50% of the world that is made up of redneck oppressors? What are they to do when Disney comes to them and says, we're going to have to not push the rainbow this month. We're going to have to not push Reimagine Tomorrow this month. And then they say, over my dead body, I'll leave before we do that. And Disney, being in the financial position it is, says, well, I'm very sorry, but we're going to have to do that. And then the other thing, Culture, and by the way, I've tricked you into sticking around for a little bit longer. But hopefully that's a sign that we're having an engaging conversation
always.
here. But
you and I always do. I appreciate these moments. So,
but the other thing you have to wonder about is, as some of these executives leave, they have been the ones protecting these studios, these studio heads. When you have Peter Docter over there at Pixar, insulting the audience, talking about us as if we've been trained like dogs, talking about how the characters of Lightyear were too complicated. That's why people didn't go see it. They couldn't understand Lightyear. We're just so stupid. Those people are going to be out beyond the gates now. They're beyond the walls. They're no longer defended because those who would have kept them in safeguard previously are exiting the door. Christine McCarthy, big time. Talking about probably the most powerful woman in Hollywood. Now, Tom Newton joins her. She is the source of the nuttery at the Disney company. What happens with people like Kathleen Kennedy? What happens with people like Pete Docter? What happens with these other, what's going to happen with the Samuel L. Jacksons who come out and spout their mouth off and harm Disney now in the future when there's nobody there to say, no, it's Samuel L. Jackson. We'll protect him.
Yeah, I think he's kind of left out there, paddling and hoping that an ocean liner happens along so that he doesn't drown. But let me ask one more question. Since we know that there's really been no forward movement on Iger's succession plan, and now we have no forward movement on a replacement CFO.
Actually, let's just emphasize we have a step backwards because Christine McCarthy was widely reported to be the next CEO after him, which we all thought was really weird at the time. And then when she left, the trades conveniently forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
That was funny that they didn't mention it at all.
But I to continue along that train of thought, how many more people are they going to have to go through until they ask Iger to stick around a little longer? And is that could he be that nefarious in his planning that they want him to stick about a little longer?
So Bob Iger will not leave his office.
Mm-hmm.
He did not leave his office when Bob Chapek came into the position as CEO. Many people do not know that. Yeah. But Bob Iger kept his office because Bob Iger remained on as a consultant receiving consultation fees. That means that when he was out there criticizing Chapek publicly and fomenting resistance to the CEO that had replaced him, he was essentially insubordinating his own boss. But yet he kept his office, and Chapek was not allowed to have the office that Iger had held. Do I think that Iger will leave his office now? Of course not. But do I think there will be a new CEO? Well, that's more difficult to say, but right now I lean towards yes. Ooh. Because, well, his tenure ends next year in November. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in that time. That's a long time for things to progress. However, I think that they do have someone selected that they want to replace him. Now, again, we're way out there, and I don't want to present this even as, a rumor from WDW Pro that I'm held accountable for.
Right.
But I'll say this. I think that based on who they put in as the interim CFO, someone out of Parks, who's not going to stick around, that's a Josh DeMauro guy.
Right.
He's not going to be there. Does that mean that Josh DeMauro is probably not going to be the CEO? Don't know.
That would be weird because normally that's your pathway to that office.
Exactly.
Through Parks, Products, and Experiences. So,
but Culture, here's who I think they are aiming for. It's a lady who was selected to go to one of the White House dinners to meet with Emmanuel Macron.
No.
It was a white tie celebration. They only do those very seldomly in any president's span in the White House. Dana Walden is who I believe that they want to put there. It gives them their first female CEO. It lets Iger go into the consultation realm and perhaps offload some of the criticism. And we'll see what happens. But right now, that's where I'm leaning.
That's a very good guess right there, because she was also the one that replaced Peter Rice when he was taken out back in shot by Chapek.
Yes.
Right. Well, I'll say this. I think you're right that it's a pretty good possibility, but it's absolutely the wrong person to succeed Iger if you want to try to correct trajectory.
Who would you go with, Culture?
Oh, I think Josh is a better choice if you're trying to get back to the things that make the company money. I think that he probably got his arm twisted substantially to change direction on a lot of things he was trying to do in the parks. I think that the worst decisions that they made on that side of the equation was moving forward with this really odd version of Project Gamma, which was all about extracting even more dollars out of the guests that were starting to dwindle even back then. But I think Josh should have been the better choice. To be fair, I don't think the person exists at this company right now that would be somebody who could lead it forward in a positive way that would return it to greatness. But that's just my opinion. I do have one final thing to add to all of this. I think that you are 100% right. The placement of a lame duck in the position of CFO is probably the best maneuver Iger's made since his return.
30 years, headed for retirement, not connected to Hollywood. Bring him in. He can make the heads roll. He has nothing to lose.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There, you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe, and join us.